This is Speed City F1. We just watched the Qatar qualifying, and Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Piastri on the pole, followed by his teammate Lando Norris, a lockout front row for the McLarens, followed by Max Verstappen. It's all set up for the championship tomorrow. Oscar Piastri has looked fantastic all weekend. He's basically led every single session, been fastest all weekend. The car has been super stable. That last lap was amazing. This is Jon Massengale. I'm joined by Jonathan Green, and Chris Medland's going to be joining us here in a little while with his microphone in Qatar. And Bob Varsha's not going to be with us today. He'll be with us for the Grand Prix tomorrow, but not with us today. And I'm going to check in and see if Jonathan Green has got his mic connected up. Mr. Green, what'd you think of that lap by Oscar Piastri?
Amazing. Well, the whole qualifying was pretty amazing. Those last three corners, the speed is, I mean, I'm sure you were doing it too. I was leaning in, feeling that speed. I mean, you know, and the G-force, you can tell how much it's acting on them, and just really impressive. I mean, it was one of those qualifying sessions that we've been anticipating for a while, championship on the line, etc., etc. And boy, did it not disappoint.
Well, Piastri, I mean, he needed this really, really badly from a confidence standpoint, from a point standpoint, from championship battle, everything. This is just what the doctor ordered for him. And this is the first time since the Dutch Grand Prix, since he's been on the pole, Jonathan.
Yeah, I know. And I laughed at the British joke that his engineer made afterwards, which is just like buses, which is an old joke about, you know, when you're waiting for a bus, they never come. And then when you get one, four come at once. And that's what he meant about the pole position, because he hasn't had one since Holland. And yeah, it's led to a bit of a funk, really. But this is a circuit that he likes. This is a circuit, high-speed corners, that he likes. And as you say, he did not put a foot wrong. And we all saw Lando's mistake. And it was a small one. But and of course, Leclerc, amazing how he got a second chance, a second bite at that. But that, as the commentator said at the time, that was going to happen at some point with the way Leclerc was having to deal with that car. And it just shows that Hamilton, despite his despondence, is doing what he can. It's not like he's lost the ability to drive.
Yeah, I mean, and let's talk about that, because Hamilton out in Q1 and qualified P18 because the car just is not working for him. Well, obviously, and clearly, we know Leclerc's one of the fastest qualifiers in the game, and here he is qualifying 10th, barely. You know, that spin he had was huge, high speed. I think I need to go back and watch it, but it looked like at least 720 degrees. I think the car spun twice because he was at high speed, and lucky that he didn't crash the car.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking at the time, if it had been any other circuit, he may not have got away with it, perhaps, except Abu Dhabi. You know, these modern Middle East circuits have a lot of runoff, and it does, and the outer blue parts do slow the car down quickly. So you know, he got lucky. He was skillful too. He controlled it, but that car is a handful, no question.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Max Verstappen. I was listening to his post-qualifying interview, Max Verstappen qualifying third, and he was saying, yeah, it's still quite a bit better than it was, but they still have limitations, is the way he put it. I think basically he's just admitting that the car is, you know, what are we at? He's a couple tenths, almost 3 tenths off Piastri, that he sounds like he's a little bit resolved to the fact that he may, you know, after tomorrow, he may not be in this championship.
Yeah, I think he's got to face that fact. And again, you know, talking about going for glory, he's got to go right from the get-go and make it his own, just as he did last time out in the sprint. You know, he's got to push on. Now it didn't work out in the sprint, but you know, that's got to be his goal. It worked out better at Vegas, but it's the same again. You know, rinse and repeat.
Well, I want to go back to Piastri's lap, because I was looking at the way the car, you mentioned it, but just look at the way how car that looks so stable, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, those last couple of corners, the car just looked like he was
on
going
rails.
Yeah, exactly. Flat as can be. And so, did you hear what he said? He said, after after the sprint qualifying and sprint race where he's been fastest, they asked him, did they make any adjustments? And he basically said, no, we're not touching this car. It's working perfectly. We're going to leave it alone.
Just polish it, as they say.
Yeah, yeah. Wipe it down with a damp rag, and you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, and Lando. Look, let's face the fact. If Lando wins this race tomorrow, then this championship is his.
Yep.
And I don't want to count Max out, right? He had the attitude that I was mentioning.
The secrets of real estate.
It's tough right now for him, but he's definitely not out of this championship because we got this race to run.
Oh, yeah.
Lando said something that could be a little bit quite telling. He said, talking about tomorrow's race, he said, could be really exciting first lap. And he said after that, he paused and said, could be very straightforward. In other words, it could be a quite boring race potentially after that first lap. And if that's the case, and he's in the same position tomorrow after lap 1 in P2, then this championship goes on for another race into the final race of the season.
Yeah, I have to say the sprint race was another indication as to how the FIA need to kind of look at it. I don't believe I saw an overtake in the in the sprint race, and so that's not good telly. And my question is, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the sprint race, that, but I think what they need to do is look at the tracks where overtakes happen in the sprint race and why, and then choose those. Austin was a good sprint race, and I think you've got to be careful. Tracks like where we are here in Losail just aren't conducive to a lot of overtakes. High speed, there's nowhere. I mean, except for that DRS zone, of which there's only one. That's your best hope. And we saw in the sprint race that even that doesn't make it an automatic.
I know. I was thinking about what you said, no overtakes. Obviously, Max moved up 2 positions, but one was given to him by his teammate Tsunoda, and the other one, essentially, Alonso had trouble. So that wasn't really a true overtake. That was Alonso struggling with the car and Max passing him. There might have been, but you're right. It was processional after the beginning, and you're right. Track to track, they do need to look at it. If it fits the track, great. Like you said, Austin, it worked great. But this is not the best weekend for it. But
hey, shout out to AARP. Alonso selling a lot of those magazines now.
Yes, Alonso doing great, qualifying in 8th position at 44 years old. He is 44, right? I got that.
Yeah, 44.
44 years old. But yeah, let's scroll on down the grid here because behind the top 3 there, we had Russell and Antonelli. And again, the Mercedes looking quick. Both of the cars looking quick.
Yeah, actually, to be honest, you've got to think of Russell and Antonelli as the spoilers tomorrow. Nothing to lose. The car looking good both at Vegas and here, 2 very different tracks. But that last lap by Russell was sensational. And if he can hold a pace like that, it's gonna this race, this whole 25 lap things. I didn't think too much of it when it was announced in Vegas, but now I see the allocation and how you go about it. There's going to be a lot of guys potentially going on scuffed medium tires or potentially scuffed soft tires if they've got them.
That's right. And this is a big deal because what you're talking about is they're limiting the tires to 25 laps. And because the race is more than 50 laps, we basically mandatory have a 2-stop race here. So it's one of those things where, they're talking about the tire, the gravel, the wear on the tires, the scuffs on the tires after the first few sessions this weekend. So the tires could play a big part, and we'll get Chris Medland to really dig into that with us when we get him joining us here in a little bit. But yeah, and look, also Jonathan, going past both of the Mercedes cars, Isaac Hadjar again having another good qualifying session, qualifying in P6.
Yeah, again, we always put a full stop or a question mark when we look at Hadjar and Tsunoda, and I've been thinking all weekend that Tsunoda's been doing enough to keep that position because he is supporting Verstappen. He is out qualifying in the sprint race, Verstappen. And, obviously the porpoising, etc. They've had problems, but Tsunoda is at least dealing with the same problem well compared to, let's say, Perez. And in fact, that's the first time Verstappen's been out qualified by a teammate since Baku in 24 with Perez. So that just tells you something. That's almost 2 years or a year and a half.
That's an amazing stat. Yeah. And because it was a sprint, a little different, I look at it a little differently, but still just an amazing stat. Hey,
especially as that's what we've been looking at in terms of the comparison is we're always looking at where the teammate of Verstappen ends up,
Yeah, of course. Carlos Sainz, had that sticker issue. Of course, qualified 7th. Good position for him.
Yep, that was weird. I mean, we love our stickers, so I can't see why Carlos isn't in on the game.
Well, you know what I found fascinating about that is the fact that he said it. He said, it feels like I've got plastic on my tires.
Yeah, he saw it. Well, in fact, you see a slow-mo of the mechanic as he leaves the pit pointing and saying, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
By the way, talking of stickers, if anybody wants one of the genuine In-N-Out burger stickers from Vegas, still got some.
You still got some. I know you and I love stickers. But yeah, Carlos Sainz looking good, qualifying in 7th, stickers or not. And right behind him, like you said, Alonso in P8, and another good run by Gasly in the Alpine, Jonathan, in P9.
Yeah, Gasly and this circuit seem to just gel. I think both Gasly and Piastri love these high-speed corners. And, Gasly's proving beyond a doubt that, he may not have the best car, but he is certainly pushing above, a bit like Hajar, but pushing above the weight of what the team's expectations are. Colapinto clearly has not covered himself in glory and is nowhere near Gasly at the moment. I fear for his future. An interesting qualifying. Well done to Gasly.
All right, I want to go over just a little bit of some of the permutations here. Lando Norris is leading going into these last 2 Grand Prix, and looking at tomorrow, if Lando finishes first, he's the champion, right? If he finishes second, and Piastri finishes 4th or lower, he's the champion, and Max has to finish 3rd or lower. And it basically goes on and on from there. In other words, if Lando finishes 3rd, Piastri has to finish 5th, and Max has to finish 4th, and on down to there. And
so really, the only way you could think about it is win the race and you're one and done.
Exactly. But again, I think the predictability of tomorrow, if we can get past turn 1 tomorrow, and the positions stay the same at the top, then we're probably looking at going into next week. But all right, Jonathan, let's get our first break in real quick here. And when we come back, we'll continue to talk about the championship and the race tomorrow. And Chris Medland is going to join us in this next segment live from Qatar. Back after these messages. Okay, let's check in with the YouTubers. Kevin Kelly's here. Oscar sure did enjoy that. Yep. He got about as excited as Oscar looks like he ever gets. Bill Ricker, turn 1 could be a decider. Yeah, there you go, Bill. Kind of just talked about that. And he says Oscar seems to like this track or vice versa. Yeah. You always wonder, did they do something to the car? Did he get this? Obviously he likes this track. It's been good to them. Bill said he heard Chris on F1 TV. Yep.
He also reports that BBC 5 Live reported 1 real overtake in the sprint race. So, okay, I missed one.
Yeah.
But you get my point, right?
Yeah.
It's not enough. I mean, Vegas had 181 2 years ago.
Bill was talking about Chris doing interviews. Did you see the interviews that Chris did with James Vowles? And I swear the rapport that he has with these team principals is amazing, because he and James were just almost yucking it up. But then the one he did with Toto was even better. I don't know what they were. I don't know what they were laughing at, because
they were laughing about it was Toto trying to be straight faced about Antonelli crossing white lines and deleting laps and stuff. And so he was trying to keep a straight face, but he's like, "Yeah, you just can't do that."
Well, but even before that, and it looked like to me, it's like maybe somebody said, "Well, you guys need to be doing this interview while Toto's pushing his scooter, and it was kind of awkward and silly. Maybe that's what they were laughing about.
Breaking news, Kevin Kelly. It looks as though Charles Leclerc has been sent over to Lewis's bedside because Lewis has been put on suicide watch.
Oh, my God. Lewis, man, he is just, man, he wears his heart on his sleeve for sure.
Yeah, but, it just shows you where I would take solace from what happened to Leclerc in qualifying for him to just realize that there's nothing that bad. It's not him.
I'm George Russell, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
George Russell bringing us back. George, we talked about him, but man, he's looking good lately, Jonathan, and seems happy, and everything's good in his world, it feels like.
Yeah, and I just get a feeling that George is winding himself up for his first real title challenge. Since he's become the leader of that team, it hasn't been the glory days of Mercedes. And in fact, they've gone not backwards, but they picked up performance in the second half of this year. And no question, George is driving at the best I've seen him drive.
Well, I tell you what, you say he may be getting ready for his championship. He's his teammate, Kimi Antonelli, is his rate of progression now.
Yeah.
In these last few races. He's
I think that's part of it, to be honest, John. I really do. I think George said right from the get-go when Antonelli was brought in, he's going to be quick. He's going to push me, and it's not going to take long for him to get up to speed. Here we are, 2 races to go, and Antonelli is more than capable of taking it to George in the same equipment. And you're right. I think both of them are going to be potent next year.
All right, I got a stat for you. So Kimi Antonelli, when he was called underwhelming by his boss after the Italian Grand Prix, you remember when Toto Wolff said this? Well, up to that point, he was averaging 4.1 points per race. But ever since Toto Wolff called him underwhelming, he's now averaged 12 points per race.
Yeah.
So it's either he's good at reacting to the criticism, or else Toto Wolff is a mastermind at knowing exactly how to get the best out of his drivers, because that is a tremendous turn, and we've all seen it, but just unbelievable turn for him. So, hey, we got Chris to do an interview with Charles Leclerc, something a little bit rare, actually, sitting down with some of the Ferrari drivers. But Chris got to sit down and do a nice long form interview. We're not going to play the whole thing right now because Chris is going to join us here in a few minutes. But I want to play the first couple of minutes of this interview that Chris did a couple days ago, sat down with Charles Leclerc, because he talks about really what we saw today about the car and then where the team is. So let's hear from Charles Leclerc.
Charles, I wanted to talk to you about how you've handled this season. Because if we went back 12 months, you were here, you were in the middle of a run that's where you scored the most points of any driver from the summer break onwards. Ferrari was fighting for a Constructors' Championship. And then you get into 2025 and the car's not quite there even to win a race at this point. How quickly does your mindset change, and are you able to switch your goals to something different in a challenging year like this?
Yeah, I mean, it's not been easy for sure, because you start the year with expectations. I mean, in a way, we ended up the second half of the season, as you said, as the one that had more points. So you look forward to the next year, hoping to continue on that momentum, but McLaren did an incredible job in that winter break and came back with a big advantage on others, a lot bigger than what we had expected. And then Red Bull kind of stepped up to their level, and Mercedes and ourselves are kind of a little bit inconsistent and struggling to find our way with this generation of cars, at least as well as McLaren and Red Bull. So it's been a tough season, but I think my objective in every season I go to is trying to maximize whatever I have. That doesn't mean I'm satisfied with the season, in a way that fighting for 4th, 5th, 6th is not something that I particularly enjoy. But looking back, I think it's been a very strong season on my side, and for that I need to to be happy about it, still being extremely critical with myself and always trying to find ways to improve. But it's been a strong season on my side.
Speaking of finding things to improve on, though, where have you improved? What have you kind of learned this year? Is there anything that stands out during a season like this where you feel like now, 12 months on, you're a stronger driver for it?
Not really. I remember in 2019 I arrived in the team and there was bigger areas of weaknesses, and one was time management, by example, and I put a lot of effort into it, and that's where also experience helps you. It's just because you know a lot more situations, you know how to adapt to them much better, and as a driver I feel a lot more complete. So now it's not I wouldn't say there's something huge that I still need to improve, but it's fine-tuning here and there, trying to improve the way I work with my engineer, the way you're going to approach a slightly lower grip corner. But these are just fine details and things that it's a continuous improvement, really. It's not that something is not going well, so you are changing it. You're just trying to push more in the right direction, because nobody is resting in this paddock, and everybody is pushing flat out in order to just become better.
You must feel that you are close, though, to being the fully rounded driver you need to be to fight for a world championship. You showed the pace and the performance and the results that you could get last year. Do you feel like if this team gives you the car, that there's nothing else you would need? You just need that machinery to be able to fight for a title?
It would be a very arrogant thing for me to say, and I'm not this kind of person. So, but I feel definitely that I'm doing a really, really good job. And surely with a better car, it will give me better chances in order to fight up there. At the moment, we don't have that.
We don't have that. We do not have that better car, Jonathan.
Very, very insightful and interesting interview. One I've been wanting to hear back for a while, because all the talk's been of Hamilton, and it's good to hear what Leclerc is dealing with, and how perhaps we don't know the mountain that the team have to climb.
Yeah, exactly. And that is just the first part of that interview. We're going to try to play either the second half or all of it tomorrow on one of the shows tomorrow. But if not, we'll have the whole thing up somewhere, whether it's on YouTube or on a podcast. But Jonathan, while we wait for Chris, let's go through the rest of the bottom 10, because Hulkenberg was 11th, Lawson, Behrman, Bortoleto, Albon in 15th, Tsunoda down in 16th, Ocon, Hamilton, Stroll, and Colapinto. So Hulkenberg, continues to look good in 11th, as especially all things considered, with big changes coming in the team. They're probably not doing a whole lot with the car right now.
Yeah, I'm watching very carefully on the battle between Aston Martin and Haas, and I'm thinking Alonso and Behrman. I think Behrman's only 1 point off Alonso, and what a scalp that would be for him. And of course, Alonso is trying to pretty much single-handedly keep Aston Martin in the fight for 7th. RB now is pulled away, but it's pretty darn close between Haas and Aston Martin, and this would be the worst finish for Aston Martin since they were Force India if they get beaten by another few points from Behrman.
Well, that's a good segue to talk about what's happened at Aston Martin with Adrian Newey, Jonathan, with Adrian Newey now becoming the team principal. And you and I were talking about this a couple days ago. You have a theory on that, don't you?
Well, yeah. I mean, Andy Cowell, they've had 4 different team principals in the last 4 years. That's not good. But they've been, that's Lawrence trying to get the best team he possibly can. But the reason we left Vegas, I say we left Vegas, we found out pretty much on the Sunday that Cowell had been moved over to strategy, and that Adrian Newey would be taking over as team principal. Now, I believe that they missed out a word, which is interim team principal, because of 2 things. One, Adrian Newey never has, since he was at Williams, wanted to be a team principal. It's not his shy role. He likes his pencil. He likes to be in the background. He likes to make decisive decisions. He's the highest paid guy there, and I'll talk about that in a moment because that's the reason I think he and Andy Carroll came to blows. But the point is they've made him the team principal. And his excuse, and typical Newey fashion, was, well, I'm going to be at the first races anyway. And it just doesn't ring. It doesn't ring because they brought him on to do a job, and the job is not, showing up at Lawrence's office on a Monday morning and running the team. His job is to get the fastest car and let somebody like a Horner or a Seidel deal with the media, deal with F1 TV, and so he can just go back to the drawing board, quite literally.
Well, and you talk about the timing of when all that happened. That announcement was Wednesday for us. So there was a couple of days there between Vegas and Wednesday when we thought the rumors were flying about Christian Horner coming to Aston Martin as well. So now we know what exactly was going on there. But I thought that was an interesting theory. And there's still rumors flying around about Christian Horner.
And I do think that there is some evidence. We know he's met with Lawrence. We know he wants a part of the team. Lawrence has done that with Newey. I don't think Newey and Horner see eye to eye, and Newey has said so. And this is the biggest point I was going to make, and what we talked about earlier this week is if you're going to pay Adrian Newey 74 million, which is way more than Alonso and way more than Stroll, and in fact everybody in the team, then by proxy, no one can really argue with him. It's a you get Lionel Messi in your team or Jordan. It's really hard to argue what direction the team's going in because Andy Carroll can be CEO, but if the other guy says no, I'm going in this direction and I'm kind of more senior than you, regardless of my title, which is part of the reason why I think they've given him the principal's role. So that things aren't going to be like, people aren't going to be looking to score points. And that it's clear that there is one leader. But I really don't think long term it's the job that Adrian wants.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on that, of course. And Chris will have his ear to the ground, finger on the pulse, etc. But I want to talk about Isaac Hadjar because he revealed, intentionally or not, that he will be on the Formula One grid next season. What do you think about that, Greenie?
Well, I don't suppose that's much of a surprise. He's either going to get the Red Bull ride with the big boys or he's going to stay where he is, I think.
You say that because of his performance, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All of the rookies, there's a fight for the best rookie, and Hadjar's in that fight, but so is Behrman and so is Antonelli, and Antonelli's got the most points. Hadjar has impressed. When you think about how he started his F1 career slipping on the formation lap in Australia, things have looked up since then. Hadjar, I've really come to be impressed with him. And it remains to be seen whether they'll give him the drive. But now they've got people queuing up at Red Bull, Lindblad, etc., and even Iwasa. There are drivers now capable of coming in that would do a pretty good job for RB, which gives you that option of moving somebody up.
All right. Well, tell you what, let's get a quick break in. This will be our last break of the show. And then we'll come back and hoping for Chris. Let me check and see. I haven't seen anything else. So he should be joining us shortly. You're listening to Speed City F1. Back after a quick break.
Hey.
Okay. Let's see what's going on with the boys and girls on YouTube. Let's see. Lewis will retire at the end of the year if he doesn't have any desire. That's Derek.
Yeah, well, oh shit, people calling me, go away.
All right, good. I'm glad you dropped that S-bomb while we're on YouTube. Let's see. Joe says something must have been behind the scenes at Ferrari. Lewis seems way more despondent this week. Andy P says Lewis to Ferrari was all about 2026 and the reg change. If the car isn't there next season, I would agree that he would consider walking away. But I've said that this season was a bit of a throwaway. Yeah, I hope you're right, Andy. I don't think anybody are ready to see Lewis retire yet, any of us. But that said, yikes. Bill agrees with you there. Oh, Andy P, going back a little bit, says it's a bit embarrassing. The best engineers in the world can't solve the tire thing here. Yes.
I think that 25 lap thing has made a difference. You know, it's made it harder for everybody this weekend.
Well, we'll see. Anybody else here? I think we touched on all these. Let's see what we got coming up, Greenie.
What's that?
Anything I missed that you want to talk about? There was something.
Not really. No, I think we're doing a good job of covering.
All right.
I did think if I've got time, I might, because I've been to Losail many times and I was at the first ever race there. So I could do a piece about, because nobody knows anything about Losail.
That's true. When was the first race there?
Oh, I want to say 2008. I mean, this is motorbikes.
All right, here we go.
Hi, this is Jay Leno from JayLenosGarage.com, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Okay, everybody playing the game, go ahead and drink. We said Jay Leno. All right, Bill Ricker. I want to say Bill Ricker on YouTube says something. We're not going to go to YouTube again, so I just want to get this in. He says, if Adrian Newey, has a good but cheaper lieutenant to handle the routine distractions of a principal role, it's good value getting both a principal and an aero chief for the price of one. I like that. Bill. And
and you know what? I'd like to follow on that. I don't see the Horner-Newey relationship being any stronger or copacetic than it was. But if I were Lawrence Stroll, having Horner in that role to deal with the press, to deal with the media, and to be the guy on Netflix, so to speak, you couldn't find a better guy because he knows how to play the Shark Tank.
So what? What are his strengths? That's what I was going to ask you. Talk about Horner's strengths.
Well, he knows everybody in the business. He's good on his feet. He knows how. I mean, think about the last 2 years where Red Bull have gone through catastrophe, including him at the center of one of those catastrophes, and he still survived it. So a bit like Flavio and Ron Dennis in the past. You know, they have this amazing ability to get through tough situations in one of the toughest sports in the world. And Adrian Newey would be terrible. I mean, look at his answer to why he's team principal. Oh, I'm going to Australia anyway. I mean, you know, it's not corporate speak.
Well, and we don't want him to put down his pencil no matter what he's doing, because that's what his genius is all about, is the aero in the car. Look, not to say that his decades in the sport, he doesn't know this sport as good as anybody, but
and he says he doesn't want to dilute it, and that's what gets him out of bed in the morning. But circumstances are circumstances. He's been made principal because he fell out with Cal, is what it sounds like. That's how I read it.
Hey, I'm gonna throw a little conspiracy theory that it just popped in my head while we're on this show, looking at how good Behrman has done for Haas, right? He's had a really nice run of it lately, these last few races. And again, today in P13, and I scroll down, and there's his teammate Ocon down in P17.
This has been one of Ocon's worst years.
Well, I know, and that's, Ocon's got a contract for next year, but we all know how contracts can be.
Yeah.
Clauses and everything else. Is his seat safe next year?
No, it's not. Especially if Haas gets 7th place, they get the money for 7th place, and they can build on it. There's that tie-up with Toyota. You've got Rovanpera trying to go Super Formula. You've got several Japanese drivers. Toyota are pushing, and you can't go that out. And what is Toyota's eventual, intention? They are the last Mohican. They are the last big auto manufacturer that isn't involved officially in Formula One. And they've been in the past and it didn't work out. But might it happen now?
That's a really good point about Toyota and the Japanese involvement. I mean, ever since Io Komatsu took over, that you never know what could happen with that seat. Also, someone who hasn't done well, Albon has had no points in the last 6 weekends, and he's going into this weekend starting P15, Jonathan.
Yeah, it's been but it doesn't feel like it's a form thing, you know. I mean, even that crash
Yeah.
at Vegas was very innocuous, and I remember saying at the time that could have been any one of the whole field. You know, it was so wet, so nasty, and Albon just was the guy. And it's been that way all season for him. I think Sainz has bedded himself in well at Williams and proved just how good he is. And I think the best way I can describe it is Albon hasn't lost, but like Hamilton, hasn't lost the ability to drive. He's just on the back foot because he's got a very fast teammate.
I'm really glad you said that, because that's exactly what I was thinking. The feel of it doesn't, yeah, and I'm sure if you look at dig into the stats deep enough, you'll see reasons and also, you know, go look at what exactly has happened to the car and the team at the time. So that's good. Hey, I want to throw something else at you. We talked about some of the permutations earlier about how Lando can win this weekend.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about some interesting permutations that if we get to the end of not this Grand Prix, but the next Grand Prix, and drivers are tied. Have you thought about that, Jonathan?
Yeah, to be honest, I spent most of the week reading up and having my own opinion on papaya rules and what will McLaren do. There was a great article in, I think, The Race, which unfortunately came through my email, so I'll have to go dig it out. But it was basically it was Autosport. It was all the journalists basically giving their opinion on whether Oscar should help Lando if things get tight.
Well, that's a good question. If we just knew a good journalist. Wait, we've got Chris Medland, who just joined us. Chris, you can answer Jonathan's questions, and then we'll get your take on the day.
I didn't give you my answer to it, but I'd love to hear Chris's.
I'll take good journalist. It's rare. So I do not think they should be asking at all. I'm glad they're not. And everything that they're saying so far this weekend also backs that up. I mean, look at the guy that is most likely to keep Verstappen from scoring big points. Right now, it's Oscar with the way this weekend's playing out. So I think they've made the right decision on that front. And just for the long-term health of the team, I don't think you can do that. There's been enough question marks over favourable treatment or the way they react to things. I actually got the reaction after the sprint pole lap. They showed Lando side the garage, obviously being disappointed when he was third, but people jump all over that, saying it shows that McLaren don't want Oscar to do well. It's not a good look. So they had to keep it open, I think, for both. But they've also shown here this weekend so far, they've got the car. That means they can let the two drivers do it. They just need those two to keep it clean tomorrow.
Yeah. And I knew that would be, well, I kind of guessed that would be your answer because it's mine too. I couldn't agree more. You cannot, after the year that they both had, you cannot now start telling Oscar. If it becomes a natural thing and he's got Verstappen behind him, that's different. But he can't do much about it. But I think both of them now will go unfettered. And you're right. The long-term future of the team relies on it. You know, it's a brand new car next year. You never know. Piastri could be streets ahead of Norris next year, and if he's allowed to go for this. But you could also have a driver that's looking outside of McLaren because he wasn't given a chance to run at the championship. And so therefore, you could lose a fantastic talent that could end up being better than Norris over the 10 years.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. We get very dragged in, don't we, to the short-termism of the excitement of one race result to another or even one qualifying result to the next. But these teams have got to look longer term. We talk about it with drivers, with car design. You know, you've got to get the right people in place. That takes a long time, and then it takes years to see the fruits of that labour. Well, it's the same with getting the right drivers in place and keeping them there. So I do think it's a sensible long-term view. And as long as we are not talking about Max Verstappen winning the title next weekend, then I think McLaren will have been proven right on that front.
Yeah, good point, Chris. Hey, Chris, so we've covered a lot of ground without you, but give us your take on the day and on the weekend so far.
To be honest, I've been very, very impressed with Piastri. I know we're talking about him now, but pressure is on in a sense. You could argue the pressure was off and that he came here and he had nothing to lose because he was so much on the back foot in recent weeks and was nearly 30 points behind coming here that it was a bit of a Hail Mary for him that might as well just go for it and see what happens. But I think there's been this innate confidence that has stuck with him, even with his recent struggles, that the pace has been there and just everything hasn't always come together for him. And he made sure it came together this weekend so far. That final lap in Q3 really impressed me because for the first time, it really did look like Norris had pipped him and that he was going to have to find something on that final lap. But it showed how good Lando's lap was, that a mistake came when he tried to go a bit quicker. And Oscar still had something in hand and delivered under pressure when he really needed to. So that has been a big takeaway. To be honest, as has Ferrari. Yeah, I know we should probably talk Red Bull because of Max, and you guys probably have, but Ferrari is just, that car looks horrific to drive. Yeah. If anyone gets a chance to go and watch the onboard of Charles Leclerc's first lap of the sprint, you will feel sorry for a Formula One driver for one of the first times in your life because they earn a good living to do this job. But I mean, when that spin came in Q3, it really did feel like it had been coming a weekend. That car had been like that the whole way, and Lewis is so downbeat and really in a bad mood this weekend. And by bad, I mean just, defeatist mood, really, because of how tough it's been. But when you see how much Charles is struggling too, you realise how and why Hamilton's in that position. So, yeah, I think it's a horror weekend for Ferrari so far.
Yeah, Chris, we played a bit of the Leclerc interview and, cut it off with him saying, I just don't have the car right now. And it is so evident right now. It's just, I mean, you're right. It's sad. You feel for him. It's like, this is Ferrari, and they're barely making it through the, Leclerc, one of the best in the game, and barely makes it into Q3. So yeah, horrible.
Yeah. I mean, I'm stood right now though in the paddock between McLaren and Red Bull, who of course are the two teams we focused on the most in the title fight. But in between those two is Ferrari still, because last year they were second in the Constructors' Championship, and here Leclerc actually ended up second because of Norris's penalty that he got in the race, but he was only 6 seconds behind Verstappen in that race. The Ferrari was good here last year. They were competitive. It's just, I don't know where it's gone or how it's gone, but they are not turning it around.
Yeah. Is there any staff change at Ferrari that could point to that?
I don't think so in that time frame, to be honest, because this time last year's car had been developed through a season. And then this year's car will have been in tandem actually developed with that. Now, they did lose their technical director who went to Aston Martin, Enrico Cardile. But I'd be surprised if it was that. And look, we look for these triggers quite often, but look at Adrian Newey going to Aston Martin. And when he left Red Bull or announced he was even Red Bull, we said at that point, Juan Pablo Montoya is frowning at me. Juan Pablo, you're doing F1 TV this weekend. We're talking about Ferrari. How much of a disaster is that team this weekend?
It's really hard to watch because it's like you don't see an opening. It's like that car either doesn't make the corner going straight, or it snaps and it bites them like there's no tomorrow. So it's really hard to build. If you look at Lando in the first session, was a little bit like that. That car was really unpredictable, but as it track rubbered up, it really came to life. And as soon as they got away from the hards, the issue had gone. Like they tried everything, and it's just there's no. I mean, at this point, Lewis will start from the pit lane again? Would you do the same with even Charles and just do a science experiment? I think everybody down pit road, when the development of the car stopped, they realized there's a lot more pace in the car, adjusting the cars. I think my personal experience from my years on F1, a few years of racing I've done, is that the engineers are so set on the way of running their cars, and they realize there's speed there.
Well, I've got to cut you off because we've got to end the show. But thank you for that. Great summation of how much trouble Ferrari are in.
Great job, Chris. All right, well, thanks, everybody. We are out of time, but don't forget tomorrow morning starting at 10 a.m. Eastern with our pre-race show, with the race at 11 a.m., followed by our post-race show. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning.